Hello, my name is Parker.
And my name is Ned.
And this is the Force Unlimited, yet another Star Wars Unlimited podcast. This is episode 31. We are recording on March 2nd, days until pre-release. And I don't want to get my hopes up, but it's possible Ned and I will attend the same pre-release.
I believe. I'm excited to...
4 sets in seems like the appropriate time to do that. So
I'm excited to build my deck with Akbar. I feel that's where I'm going in feeling.
Who's the other yellow hero is... who's draftable?
It's the guy. Showcase. It's that one guy from the show that I don't know who turns off abilities. Yeah.
To be fair, Ned, this is a situation where like you are in the majority, not the minority, as opposed to like most of the time when you're like, who's this weird glove shitto? You mean the star of an entire film? This is a, this is a TV Wrecker. Who's the Wrecker? This is TV Y7 television show that was not beloved in the way that Clone Wars or Bad Batch was. Although I will say it, the Resistance art style far superior to the stiff-legged weird walk that every single one of those Clone Wars and then Bad Batch and then Tales of they all have it's a terrible, I don't know. I'm not an animator. Maybe I'm assuming it's really hard to do these things.
Probably.
But they all have this really stiff, weird walk. Like the skeleton animation in that show is awful. All of them. And Resistance actually has like a much more fluid. I just think the art style is overwhelmingly superior, but it is written for a very specific audience, and it's alluding to actual like war as opposed to like Young Jedi Adventures, which is exclusively entire episodes are about like finding fruit. So anyway, I think
fruit?
Cause is really hard to do in limited.
I mean, even in constructed, like I was intrigued, and a lot of people are really high on him. But I'm not sure that I quite feel it there. But I think that we're jumping ahead a little bit.
No, but the point I'm making is that specifically with, if you're, I think cleaned up in a lot of limited in Spark of Rebellion because the two leaders, like Han's obviously clearly there now, but like with DJ and everything. But in the pure Spark pool, Han's was like, it was casino gimmick. Play all those 7-cost legendaries. That he was not there in limited. Jin was fine, but there was this I think pervasive feeling that the yellow hero was bad, but the yellow hero leaders weren't great. But the card pool was actually just fine.
Yeah, no.
And so I feel like you just got fed every time we did drafts.
The 2/4 raid 2 saboteur, or what is it? Agent.
Oh no. Yeah. Not the Pathfinder. That's the other one. But I know.
That unit is amazing. Yeah.
Especially when you're getting just fed them. So I'm just excited to. I've not played as much as I would like to the last like 3 or 4 weeks. So February has been a dry swoon month. So I'm excited to get back into it. Let's talk. Speaking of playing, before we get into our episodes, let's talk about the match we just played. Ned, I was so confident tonight because I was confident no matter what you brought, I was going to take you down, and I got close twice.
You was very close. I think that if you had taken slightly different lines in those cases, you probably could have got there. So without going too deep into the weeds, because again, this is a very special episode. You were playing Piet Blue, and I was playing Mando Red. We were both taking heavy advantage of the new pilot mechanic in very different ways, where you were building like unkillable super units, and I was throwing pilots on little shitters and then vomiting out my whole hand to get damage across the finish line. And in both the games, I got the damage across the finish line, although I will say having 35 health on your base made it a lot harder to get across the finish line than I would have cared for.
Yeah, we'll circle back onto my feelings about Piet Blue, because as Ned and I do thrice a year now, we are renewing our vows to each other as podcasters. We are standing up in front of our peers and reaffirming our desire to continue working together in partnership. I say our peers because I'm confident 90% of our audience is just other podcasters. No, I kid. So, but before we get that, we've got to revisit. It's 2 episodes in a row, Ned. we're going to briefly jump into that's not how the Force works.
That's not how the Force works.
Because, once again, article came out from behind the recalibration, I believe, behind unlimited recalibrations. Tyler Parrott had an article on the main site about their vibes coming out of year 1, going into their vibes coming out of year 2. And I actually got pinged, not anywhere near as much as Rare Bases, but 4 or 5 times by 4 or 5 different people said, hey, you and I have built our brand a little bit on talking about what our card's worth. And so we finally have some, not Discord comment, not a tweet, but an actual, here's an article diving deep into how cards are costed. How does it jive with Ned math? And I will answer that briefly because I actually feel like I've been steeped and stewing in Ned math for over a year that I can at least speak to. One, I feel like we say this every episode, but I just want to reiterate, Tyler's article and what we talk about are not the same thing. They feel like the same thing, but Tyler Parrott's article is about the recipe for Star Wars Unlimited. It is about the 7 herbs and spices that only he and Danny Schaefer know in the entirety, which is why they're not allowed to be on the same plane. It is what they aim for. And Ned, when Ned does Ned math, we're a little closer. I say we, like I do anything, dear listener, other than
no, you're very helpful, Parker. It would not be possible without your contributions. It would not be possible without your contributions.
I asked the questions, the follow-up questions. We are, I think, closer. We're the food inspectors checking the sell-by date on the shelves at Walmart. We understand what the 7 herbs and spices should be, but we're looking for sawdust and rat feces and Boba Fett's, like the things that, like
things you don't want to see. Boba Fett in the meat, not allowed.
Things you don't want to see in the box. And those are not the same thing, right? Because, and additionally, Tyler can talk about the science, but I assume he would be one of the first to admit that designing cards is as much art as science. And
yes.
Ned, we cannot quantify art. That is unquantifiable by its definition. And in fact, we currently don't quantify most of the science, which is why we keep coming back to Moff Gideon's Light Cruiser as the best.
It's a good card. I am waiting for its day in the sun. I will be vindicated.
Yeah, I don't think you will, Ned. I think Ned math will get increasingly accurate, but I think Vader being number 2 goes to, show. But I think the definition of the art, Tyler circles this a little bit, but the article talks about the Death Star, Stormtrooper, and Greedo. And the article also talks about 1 point of cost being worth 2 points of stats. But I think that misses the point, because the thing that I think we built the brand of Ned math, I think, in set 1 when it was most contentious. And it is only, because at that point, using exclusively Spark of Rebellion, the discrepancy, we're currently hovering at about 1.3 power for Ned stat point. 1 cost gets you 2 Ned stat points, and you need 1.3 Ned stat points to get a point of power, and you only need 1 Ned stat point to get a point of health. That's given 3 sets, and we just recently finished up JTL, so we can do Jump to Lightspeed as
a tiny note there. You also get stat points for just existing, where a 0 cost unit is not priced as having 0 worth of stats.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's sure, but the point being is, but as a Spark of Rebellion, you were pricing it, and I say you as if like this was a decision you made. The math was showing closer to 1.5.
Yes.
Which I think was very contentious, and it's where the Ned math became known. And yet, I think that 1.3 holds true. And as an example, I hold up, yes, Tyler admits that maybe Greedo, a 1 cost 3/1 with a rider, but unique, but 1 aspect. And Death Star Stormtrooper, a 2 aspect 1 cost 3/1 that's vanilla, were maybe a little rough.
Too good.
And that's why the only following 1 cost 3/1 we've gotten is Mr. Bones, which is a 2 aspect or double, not even 2 aspect, double aspect, which is even more limited. But counterpoint, R2D2, right? We have multiple 6 1/4s that cost 1 with a variety of aspects. So if stat points, if it's too, I think that article misses the point that power is, they price power is maybe at the lower curves, but they price power a little more. Because we have yet to see if it was truly equal, then R2D2 would beget a 4-1 with rider for 1 aspect for 1.
I mean, yes, but, and this is where the food inspector's analogy, I think, holds very true, is that you can, like, by the rules, one could maybe make that by the rules they set out, but they also know that that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't taste good.
Yes.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And that's why Ned math is intended to be descriptive and intended to be a way. And part of that is that you have to be more careful with power than you do with hit points, because a unit that has a big butt and low power is fundamentally less dangerous to the overall health of the game than a unit, like, compare an 8-2 to a 2-8, right? Like 2-8, we have seen Jabba the Hutt at 2-8, and that draws a card even, right? Like, it's a 2-8 that discounts cards and draws a card. If you look at the raw stats, like, that's 10 stat points, which is a lot. Right.
Which is a lot. But again, there's a distinction between saying, like, you can say you shouldn't put 3 times as much sugar as flour in your cake. Your cake will be too sweet. Sure, that's a flavor decision, right? But you can't say that there's no calories in sugar, and the flour and sugar have exactly the same number of calories or whatever, right?
Yes.
Like that's what we're talking about. Like, I agree that a 4-1 for 1 with a rider, no matter how small the rider is, it would be universally played in whatever deck that could play it. Like,
yes,
that, right? Like,
almost assuredly. Yes.
So I get why it's bad, but it still points out that what we have seen, because they've stopped, Jump to Lightspeed has no 3-1s for 1.
Nope.
But we continue to get 1-4s for 1. And
yes.
so
we
even
get
my
1-4s for 1 with special abilities, because the new R2.
Yeah, new R2, exactly. Like, there's and BB-8s, and they continue to give us. So my point is just that I think what people ask us, what we think about Tyler, not Tyler the person. What do we think about Tyler's article, Bad Policy?
Right.
And I want to hear what you think about it, Ned. But I mostly want to say is, like, I don't think what Tyler's describing and what Ned Math describes are quite the same thing. I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah. No, I think that it's interesting, and I think that also, I am interested in the fact that they're deciding to rebalance around the idea of Boba Fett and Millennium Falcon as, like, these are the 2 things that they call out as being, like, units that they want to set as being, like, in the median of the power level. And part of why Ned Math, I think, is helpful and descriptive is that not everything is going to follow Ned Math. Some things are going to be better than Ned Math because some things are going to be worse than Ned Math. And that's the way that you design cards, is that not every card is going to be equal. Some cards are going to be better and some cards are going to be worse. Even if it's not intentionally, even unintentionally, you are going to have some cards that are worse than others. And there's a lot of articles talking about this. And they're not just, like, filling out numbers on a regression. That's not how you actually design a game. That doesn't make for an interesting game. The point of the regression is and the point of their kind of rubric is as a baseline from which one moves, as a way to, like, center yourself, because it's very easy, if you don't have, like, a baseline to anchor yourself to, kind of drift off more and more into powerful directions. Something that I do think is interesting is the fact that they are calling out that their 1 and 3 cost buckets were stronger than the 2 cost bucket, that they maybe were understatting the stuff in the 2 cost bucket. And
although, if they're rebalancing around the 3 cost bucket, I mean, is that just saying that if the 3 cost bucket is both too strong but also the new norm? Like, I didn't quite drive those 2.
So my understanding of this, and obviously, Tyler, if you'd like to come on the show and talk more in detail about, like, what your understanding of things going forward is. But they were pointing to specifically, like, Boba Fett is a 3/5 for 3 with a pretty good on attack ability, right? Millennium Falcon is a 3/4/4/3 with an amazing comes into playability and a cost, right? Both of those are well above where one would expect, like the Ned, not well above, but above where you would expect the Ned math curve to come in. So what they were saying is we have examples of like good 3-cost units, but if you look in the good 2-cost units bucket, you don't see like the 2-cost units that people get excited about are, Battlefield Marine.
Right. That's fair.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Or that
Tyler
the vanilla 3/2 for 3 Phoenix, whatever, in space.
Yeah. Oh, now. Yeah.
Now.
Yes.
Right. And this is part of them trying to make sure that playing on curve is exciting. And they're talking about trying to make sure that mid-range decks are well positioned within the format. They're worried about like mid-range decks being squeezed out by very powerful aggro and very powerful control shells. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that if you're playing on curve, that what each number that you're hitting along that power curve is giving you enough bang for your buck, that you're getting exciting units at like the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 5 cost slots, so that a mid-range deck where every turn you're tapping out to play a powerful, a reasonably statted powerful threat that probably has some value stapled to it in like the classical mid-range style, can hang with playing a bunch of value 1 and 2 cost units. And
he says that. Tyler says that, but I'm curious. I mean, this is clearly describing FFG's plans for the next 3 sets for year 2. But I'm curious to see. I mean, I feel like both aggro and control got a lot of fun new toys. And Jump to Lightspeed. You've got something like, you've got new Chewy, who they described when they released them as like a way to allow mid-range to slow down control, but it's actually just like a lot of beef on a control on an aggro card that I mean, you just drop a Y-wing or a Green Squadron A-wing and then drop Chewy on the next turn. Good luck. Like no power of the dark side. Like no vanquish. And so like, that just feeds into green hero aggro, which was already a very aggro-y color. And so I'm curious to see what we're talking about in late June. The meta stabilizes if they've moved the needle at all for the mid-range. But now we're getting into meta and
I think
stuff,
things
like
that
our vibes on not our brand.
Sure.
So
totally.
Let's get into our brand, which is emotional connection. I'll let you have one more.
Yeah, sorry, just one more thing to put a pin in it. I would really like on a future show to talk about I think why the difference between like a Baneslayer and a Mole Drifter, and why the game I think needs more reasonably statted Mole Drifters
and what Baneslayer and Mole Drifter
needs.
Those are terms I don't know. So sure, let's do it. But let's get into this episode.
Yes.
Renewing our vows. I assume you are up to speed, dear listener, but if you are not, this is Ned and my indulgence. And we're probably doing this about 1 episode earlier than we usually do in the meta. I feel like we usually do it after pre-release, but the set's spoiled. Everybody's cooking, and it was a very aggressive preview season, so there's been a lot of time, I think, for us to soak up the full set. So we are going to do, we discussed something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue.
Yes.
Ned, would you like to go first on something old?
Yes, happily.
A leader pre-Jump to Lightspeed that you are excited about because of Jump to Lightspeed.
Okay, so this is definitely, a lot of these are going to be in the hear me out bucket. I've got one that's more normal, but I've got 2 that are more normal because I had to borrow from somebody. And so not everything can be in the hear me out bucket, but hear me out here. Okay, so what is the villainy deck that on an aggressive villainy deck that is currently giving everybody fits. Why? It's Jango Fett. Jango Fett is a reasonably has like Mandalorian stats, and their ability is that they exhaust for doing kind of normal stuff that you would otherwise want to do, and they're played in a Tarkin Town shell, and it does really well. So what if I told you that there was a light side version of that now you can have? And the answer is you can. You can play Mandalorian Tarkin Town. So the Mandalorian has the ability to exhaust when you play an upgrade, and traditionally the problem has been that if you're playing upgrades, you can end up with a hand where you have half, or in order to play an upgrade, you need something to play it on. And so you're putting a lot of your eggs into one basket, and potentially, or, multiple baskets maybe. But in general, you need both upgrades and units. And if you end up with too much of one or too much of the other, you're in a situation where you cannot play your hand out to its fullest effect. But now with pilots, every single one of your upgrades can also be a unit, right? So,
and so many of your units can also be upgrades.
Some of your units can also be upgrades. And I think that, as was demonstrated in the game, the games that we played, I ended up in the mid game needing to pivot from like the space arena to the ground arena because you were choking up space with a whole bunch of like big dumpers. And I can play like not amazingly statted, but reasonably statted ground units
and just lane dodge.
Yeah, and lane dodge. Or if you're on the ground, I can play at them as pilots in space and exhaust you and keep my tempo up. Additionally, I get to play Daring Raid, Jam Communications to shut people down, and there are in Heroism and Aggression, and in the Cunning Aggression package, Hotshot, DL-44 Blaster, Armed to the Teeth, and Cassian Andor are all excellent smuggle cards, and this is a deck that's able to just puke its hand out by turn 4, and so you can reload faster than your opponent can by just playing good stuff.
So I mean, clearly I lost. I think there's the juice is at least worth the squeeze. I think the concern is a lot of the value of the Django turn is that it's similar to the Iden, is that on flip it goes from once to anytime, right?
Yep.
So it goes from lock something down to lock everything down, if you can, say overwhelming barrage or whatever, and just ping everybody for one, and now they've got an exhausted board. Congratulations. Like, they get to run roughshod over you. Whereas the Mandalorian flips and can do its thing a little bit better. But like,
yes,
and again, I lost, but like, I felt like you weren't really exhausting. I think you exhausted.
Yeah, it's not
my like throwaway pilot once, right?
So you are not getting as much value out of your exhaust ability as Jango is. I'm gonna be upfront here. Playing test games of this against myself and just in general, Jango is going to give you more value.
But you do get the Heroism discard package. So
you get the Heroism discard package. You get like very, very aggressive. I would argue that you can like kill your opponent faster with this deck than you could with Jango in a comparable like Goldfish scenario. And you're getting a lot of potential value. Test games that I've played where I've been able to land the new Razor Crest and then pilot it up, you can just get absolutely huge tempo swings. You get to play the Millennium Falcon and playing like the Millennium Falcon and putting a pilot on it. Like, yeah, you're paying for it, but it's amazing. And
true.
Yeah.
We'll talk about good field pilots a little bit later.
So
I
Parker,
also
what do you
am
have?
running a red heroism package. I'm returning in the true sense of something old to my set 2 leader, young Han 2. But I'm actually excited to build him in green. I ran him in blue throughout set 2. And I think in blue, he's maybe been... He wasn't never truly replaced by Rey, but he may, I think, have been replaced by Anakin. That body is just too big.
Yeah.
But in green, we got, I think, my possibly favorite combo to come out of JTL, which is Poe Dameron, one hell of a pilot. For those who haven't like been soaking in the previous, the new Poe unit is just a 3/3 unit or a 2/3 pilot. But when you play him as a unit, you get to create an X-wing, and then you can attach Poe to any vehicle without a pilot on it. He's a 4 cost. That's pretty. I mean, that's 4/5 in space for 4, which is not bad.
Yeah,
4/5 in space for 4 is not bad. In Han 2, though, you can deal 2 damage to him as a unit.
Yeah.
To get him out on turn 3, and then swing when he converts to a pilot, he sheds that damage. So he is 4/5 of space stats for 3, playable on turn 2. That is, you just like, that you can drop any, the new, any of the new good stuff or any of the old good stuff, Green Squadron A-Wing, or the Y-Wing for the indirect damage, and then plus say like a free R2 just to keep filtering, and then next turn, there you go, like 4 or 5 of stats on turn 2 in space is just.
Don't forget
I'm
Blue
very
Leader.
excited to play that.
Leader.
But you get all the good stuff. You get a lot of we get Blue Leader, which is again also 3/3 of ambush in space, or a 5 for 5 ambush on the ground.
Yep.
Why not? The new Chewie pilot, Faithful First Mate. That's just 3/3 and shuts down a lot of control, a lot of like mid-range answers. Really great. I think there's just a lot of fun to be had there. This is a little more aggro than the red green package. Is still a little more aggro than I would like, but we're looking at enough like fun top ends. Poe, Guerrilla Attack Pod, Wrecker, right? Like you still get like that kind of fun. You can run enough of that fun late game package because it's a little bit earlier for you as playing young Han. So that's I think the deck I'm probably going to build first, just because it's very few, it's mostly a shell that existed that's just been beefed up by a couple uncommons from set 2, and I expect that I'll have a full set of uncommons by the end of my pre-release. So I think, again, I wish it was a little bit more mid-rangey, but I am very excited to play Han 2 with ECL.
Oh yeah.
What new leader speaks to you, Ned?
So a number of the new leaders speak to me. The leader that I'm choosing to highlight for this particular show is Mr. Robert Fett, Boba 4, that basically turns all of your non-combat damage to non-combat damage +1, with the +1 being an indirect damage once per turn. So if you put Boba 4 in a shell where you're dealing a lot of indirect damage, you can count from 0 to 30 or 35 or whatever very, very quickly. Interestingly enough, if you're playing in a cunning with a cunning base, you can run Triple Dark Raid, which is arguably a card that has been good but has only gotten better. Same thing with Ruthless Raider, being able to fill your holes with TDR, and like the new Radiant 7 that deals 5 indirect damage on play, and each enemy non-leader unit gets -1 power for each damage on it. Does a lot to catch up to Jango's exhausting.
People are angry about that card.
Yeah. Devastator.
I mean, it's a good card, but it's like a lot of people have problems with its theme. I don't have strong feelings one way or the other, but it boggles my mind that people are that upset about. I'm like in my mind, a mostly background ship. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not judging. I just was caught off guard, but
I guess I'm a little surprised by that. But I mean, not you being caught off guard, but the people would care. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's like okay, sure, like Darth Vader or Rey did not live up to your expectations. Sure. Like, their interpretation of your beloved.
You're justified.
Character.
You really wanted Admiral Akbar to be kicking some more behind, but.
Sure. But no, it just caught me off guard. So new Devastator, which looks like you will be able to get from showdowns.
Yes.
So that easily attainable legendary if you are either a little bit better than mediocre or you attend many showdowns that are sparsely attended by other people. So I suspect that these are going to cause some. I mean, I know Portland has a number of showdowns that had like 12 people in attendance. So I think Devastated Legendaries for top 8 is going to. And I think you're going to see bigger turnouts at showdowns this time.
Oh yeah,
That's a good card.
Yeah, you get to play Fet's Fire Spray, the 6 cost, the old Fet's Fire Spray, Fet's Fire Spray 1, and it comes in ready. It's really going to come down to whether or not you're getting good value out of indirect damage. And you've also got kind of a hole at 3. Like Guerrilla Soldier is okay. Disabling Fang Fighter is, I think, going to be semi-mandatory going forward for at least a while. And Droid Missile Platform is profoundly mediocre, but
that being said, so I played Nils from Holocron Card Hub on Thursday.
Yeah.
We played some webcam matches, and because he is an elite content creator, unlike the two of us, he already has the starter decks, and so he was running the Boba Spotlight, not starter, Spotlight decks, and there's some gas there. There's some speed. Like, I mean, that extra, I mean, just again,
1 damage a turn adds up. Yeah.
I was going to say, as we've seen with Cad Bane and we've seen with Darth Vader, reliable pings, they add up.
Reliable free pings, particularly when they don't cost an action, are huge.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that goes to, you know, you and I were talking about the First Order Stormtrooper versus Death Star Stormtrooper, and it's a 2-1 that does 1 point of indirect damage on attack and on defeat, on par with a 3-1 just out of the gate. And I think more often than not, it's better.
Yeah.
And often than not, it's just at least, you're going to get at least 3 points of damage out of it before it dies. But the indirect damage, like a little bit of indirect damage, maybe, but if you can just keep adding up that indirect damage, it just eventually becomes overwhelming.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then you've got the cards that key off of that ATDP Occupier that you can maybe throw down for super cheap if your opponent's spreading the damage around. And then War Juggernaut that can potentially clear out a whole bunch of damage units or just be like a massive body that you can TDR out and get huge value from.
Yeah, I'm looking at your list, Ned. I feel like you said there's a hole at 3, but I feel like the ATDP Occupier is like, it should always be 3, right? Like you should always be staring down on
except against control or against like an aggro deck where they're, you know, a lot of times your opponent is going to, if you're relying on ATDP to fill your hole at 3, your opponent is going to know that and is going to react to make sure that you can't play it at 3.
Sure.
Is what I will say.
I don't know. Yeah. The fact that your list, you're running one of, that feels like I mean, like for me,
this is very,
right. Is like getting its price down to 1 and then just voting for 2 or 3 of these.
I don't think you're wrong. This is, all of the lists here are very, very raw, and I fully expect large numbers of these cards to get cut.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well,
what about you? What's new?
It's almost like we're saving blue for last and working on other colors, Ned. I am actually genuinely excited about Poe. He is, I'm not going to say the leader I am most excited about, but he is a leader I'm quite excited about because, as we've discussed, the problem with upgrades is that you can get twofered, right?
Yep.
Like an upgrade gets bounced or whatever. And a pilot, I go back and forth on whether a 2-1 is that you can only have one of. A 2-1 upgrade for 1 is better than Tarkin, which is just a 1-1, but you can have many of them. You can just vomit them forever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, Tarkin is part of a shell that builds up slowly, and we're not, mid-range isn't quite there yet, whereas red-green heroism aggro is absolutely there.
Oh yeah.
And so this will not shock you, but so much of the Poe in ECL shell looks a lot like the Han 2 in ECL shell. Turns out red green like fast mid range deck has a lot of similar looking unions. You're still going to be running Poe 2, you're still going to be running Guerrilla Attack Pod, you're still running Wrecker, you're still running Cassian Andor, you're still running Green Squadron A-Wing, but like black 1 on turn 1, it's black 1, new black 1 is just a good card.
Oh man, that is such a good card. Yeah, like, in non-Poe shells, it's that have pilots, it's still good, and in Poe, it's very good.
Like a 3, I mean, like if you have a pilot, it's a 3/3 for 2, which is not too heavy, but like
even Battlefield Marine in space.
It's Battlefield Marine in space, and and if you're running Poe as a leader, you always have there's a lot of fun stuff in here. I think again, I struggle because Fantasy Flight has yet to build. I don't want to say like a super competitive. I'm not looking to I'm not going to be taking down any PQs no matter what I play, but I don't feel like we've seen a like slow mid-range heroism deck yet. Like every good heroism deck that's like, I think again, somebody takes it down with something weird, but it tends to be pretty aggro. And if it's in the mid-range, it's still in the like either fast mid-range or it's yellow shenanigan mid-range. And like, not that that's not, I mean, like I played yellow all of set 3. So I'm no scrub mentality, but what my dream is a heroism non-yellow, like mid-range is at that like Krennic speed as opposed to at that like young Han speed where it's like the sweet turn is like turn 5, turn 6 as opposed to like turn 4.
Yeah.
But until then, I still love Red Green Hero, and I will be running Poe because also the overlap of like 40 cards makes it with Han 2 makes it really easy to re-sleeve. Like, that was a sad locals. I'll just go to my other locals tomorrow night, swap out 5 cards.
On this subject of decks, while we're kind of diverting a tiny bit, I watched a really interesting match where somebody was playing double red mace in set 3. And they were running it as like a slow mid-range to controlling shell. I didn't think it was quite there yet, but I think that some of the cards that are coming out in Jump to Lightspeed may make that workable. And I will be interested to see if that happens.
I believe. I think that's, we've definitely seen, especially in set 3, like cards that weren't great come back. We've seen like the return of cards that just weren't quite there, like get speed up. But I don't know how much we've seen leaders. Like, yes, I mean, you've got that person who's like taking down a PQ with, Thrawn 1. And that, I mean, that's great that somebody took down some European PQ with, this with Jyn Erso or whatever. But like, you haven't seen it like reliably placing in top 8s. A leader who was out of contention. We've seen cards come back, but we haven't seen the body build up a leader. So I'd be curious to see if Mace in set 4. I mean, we're close. The problem is that yellow villain and blue villain have more of those late game toys. Makes me sad. Anyways, let's talk about something happy. Let's talk about a deck we are borrowing, Ned. What deck did you steal from another content creator?
So you explicitly told me not to steal from Thork this time, so I didn't. I stole from the Garbage Rollers. So they have, I was watching a bunch of their testing matches, and they had a Vader 4 yellow list that was running 13 beautiful Swarming Vulture droids. And you might say, boy, 13 Swarming Vulture droids, that seems like a lot of a profoundly kind of mediocre unit. And you're not wrong. But the thing
why
is,
only 13 instead of 15?
the full 15. I think that it's to make the 3-ofs work. That the deck is almost entirely 3-ofs, with a couple of minor exceptions. But it is really interesting once it gets going. Basically because Darth Vader's action ability, if you've attacked with a vehicle, you get to make a tie. So you're able to poop out a lot of extra value. Running Victor Leader and Lurking TIE Phantom is a good combo, as they say. Geonosis Patrol Fighter, being able to exploit out on the back of your ties, lets you have good control of the board. You've got a bunch of cheapos that you can get out with everybody's favorite 7-cost Darth Vader unit. And then the Darth Vader Leader Deploy is quite good. Like, you get to deploy as a +5/+5 upgrade on 6, and you make 2 TIE Fighter tokens. So this is not a standard villainy yellow green list. I don't know that there is a standard villainy yellow green list, but this is, aggressively slotted and very, very interesting. And I forgot to mention the last kind of piece of juice that they were able to squeeze, and that is the Invisible Hand. Being able to basically draw swarming vulture droids and play them for free when played, particularly when you triple dark raid it out. Triple dark raid, a card that continues to be amazing, lets you just vomit out a huge amount of power very, very quickly, and unless in the space lane. So yeah, it's a good deck. I like watching it.
That puts a lot of pressure on me to implement swarming vulture droid. I want to give a shout out to a somewhat new content creator. Take the Blast. They are a Twin Suns content creator, newly arrived, and they've taken the effort for good camera angles, good good
like
vibe,
good sound quality. What are we?
Sure,
Yeah,
right. What?
Yeah.
But the deck that they played that actually stood out to me a little bit, because early on in Twilight, I think when we last did this, I was a little hot to trot for Watt.
I remember
for Watt Timbre, and he never landed. That +2/+2 was actually the hurdles I thought were obvious, but the timing to get the +2/+2, I just never think he never took
quite
off.
lined up. Yeah.
But in Twin Suns, you pair him with Emperor Palpatine, and you have an assured. I mean, it's a plus. Twin Suns is an inherently slower format,
right?
And Palp can sack a unit, and congratulations, you have now lost a unit to trigger Watt. Like, you don't have to.
And you deal damage, and you draw a card, right? Like,
and you deal damage and you draw a card, right? So it's essentially just every time you palp, and any palp player will tell you should be trying to palp all the time.
Yeah.
Anytime you palp, you get +2/+2 for a unit, and you don't have to attack something and do inefficient trades or whatever to make it happen. You just do your palp.
Yep.
And as long as you have something else still on the board, you get a +2/+2. And I thought that was a hilarious deck. So that is the deck that I am stealing, that I'm borrowing,
borrowing, something borrowed, not something stolen.
Yeah. Oh man, weddings would be more fun if we did them that way.
Oh, that is, you're not wrong.
You give it a whole kind of like cowboy pirate vibe.
Yeah.
Twin Suns should be on the table for our for decks that we're excited to try out. And I specifically wanted to find a Twin Suns deck because Jump to Lightspeed representing the jump to the full fruition of Twin Suns, where you're not just running the only viable 50 cards in your 3-color pair, but 4-color pair. But you're actually running, like, you're actually making choices. I think makes it a little bit, the pool's big enough, 80 cards, you're starting to see some variation. And I like seeing more and more, they're not the first, but I like seeing more and more content creators jump on Twin Suns. Ned, something blue.
Okay, so this is definitely in the hear me out space.
Okay.
So this is a Kira combo deck in blue-green, and the idea is that you're using Close the Shield Gate combined with Galactic Ambition to cheat out Annihilator 4 turns early. Potentially 5 turns early, or maybe even 6 turns early if you were successful in Super Laser Technicianing into a resupply, right? Like, if you... Now, is this good enough to actually win a game? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I mean, you're running a 3-card combo, and you're also kind of relying on ramp, not like enormously, but like a little bit relying on ramp. And then the payoff is on turn 7, you get a 12/12 that kills a unit. And like, yes, it does. It annihilates the unit. Yeah.
It annihilates
the unit. Which, you know, let's say that, like, best case scenario, you destroy a unit and then they have another copy in their hand, right? So you've killed a unit, you've dropped a card on, and you force them to discard a card on turn 7, which I think is on the 7 resource turn. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but Darth Vader is still legal and can destroy most units and then play a unit of your own. So it's like drawing you a card and putting it into play and destroying a unit. Now, the body's less good. 5/7 is not 12/12, but
it's a viable turn 7.
It's a viable turn 7, and you're not being required to play Close the Shield Gate and Galactic Ambition.
Yeah, I mean, immediately people want to close the Shield Gate into Galactic Ambition, and it's a cute combo, but
the payoff's not there. Yeah.
Well, I think the payoff would. I think the payoff would be there if we didn't have magic. If we had magic turns, right?
Yeah.
But we don't. We have Star Wars Unlimited turns, and the combo is a combo that relies on your opponent not having a unit that they can attack with. That's a hurdle, right?
That is a big hurdle.
I think I'm going to poke you for 1 damage. Oh, and you're close to Shield Gate.
Doesn't work.
And now your hand has Galactic Ambition in it. So,
Galactic Ambition would also be better if it wasn't unit, right? Like, I originally was conceiving of this deck, and I had misremembered the text of Galactic Ambition. I'm like, I'm going to do Endless Legions. And the whole idea is that you run nothing but events, and you are resourcing all of your powerful units. And then you go, Wacha! And you're able to deploy them all. Yeah, no, but Galactic Ambition says unit, which notably, Endless Legions is not a unit. So, yeah. Hence the title, actually working combo deck, which, your mileage may vary on the actually working part of it.
That's fair. Well, I can tell you, Ned, I am looking forward to Annihilator. That will be the legendary. I hunt down a playset of first, because I'm not going to not own the largest blue capital ship in the set. My friendship with Avenger is over. Friendship with Annihilator is my new best friend.
Let your opponent choose what they lose when you can pick it and annihilate it for the low cost of only 2 resources more?
Yes. So, as our dear listener, if you are truly dear to us, has surmised, I have been lying again. Everything that I said up till now is a faint echo of what I actually am excited about, which is all the blue stuff. I'm always excited about the blue stuff. It never plays out because I'm not a very good control player. I just want to be left alone to build my
your magical little
pile.
Christmas. Yeah.
I'm not. I do not do lines. I don't know the other opponent's decks well enough to know what I need to trick out and what I need to be afraid of. But I'm always excited about blue at the start of the set, and the 2 things, all I'm excited about is blue. Is Tarkin New Tarkin. I mean, who doesn't love do a thing you already want to do twice?
By Tarkin, you mean Thrawn.
Sorry, Thrawn. Yes.
Yeah.
There is no
No.
New Tarkin.
Yes.
New Thrawn.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ned. As you know, you are at my daughter's birthday party today. It took
Yes.
a lot out of us. I am
Yeah.
running on fumes. Yes, sorry. New Thrawn, who
Yes.
just, if you like doing it, do it twice.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Easy peasy. I'm looking actually, I didn't expect it, but I'm kind of looking at him in Lake Country because there's so much. So, tangent.
But
I've
you're
also
not
been playing
you're not getting to get Ruthless Raider.
Vigilance.
Yeah. But
You just
yeah, you
don't.
don't
I am looking
Yeah.
at Thrawn in red. Yes.
Sorry.
I'm
But Lake Country doesn't let you run red, right?
No, it doesn't. But I'm
Yeah.
looking at Thrawn in red.
Yes.
I was looking at Thrawn in blue,
Mm-hmm.
and then I realized, I could replace Vigilance and just start with 4 health more against the aggro matchup. And Vigilance is nice against the aggro matchup, but Lake, but like that's
right.
That's the only double blue card you would run in double blue Thrawn. And the Vow combo is really fun. Like there's just blue is just so many sack effects. A lot of people have been building Thrawn with exploit, and that's probably where the deck will exist, and that's not what I want to do. I don't want to sack my units to play bigger units, even if I just want to run them into the opponent's units and then get the double when defeated. But in red, he's great. I'm looking at both of him there, but the bluest blue, deepest, like my hat is like a shark fin blue, is Thrawn, either in double blue or in Lake Country. But the deck I'm actually probably going to be playing the most until I'll play Thrawn after they ban Piet, because I think
Piet is
in every
so
color,
strong. Yeah.
He's so because he's just, and that was what actually my problem tonight is I've been playing I've been building Piet decks and the problem is that kind of like somebody's been traveling through the multiverse and forgotten where they are. I was struggling to remember like which Piet deck I was running. So like, I played the immediate, I built, the obvious answer is you build the immediate greedy all ramp Piet.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's a mistake. I think that's going to end up being just too greedy a deck. And so then I pivoted to the no ramp. Like Piet is your ramp, right?
Okay.
So no super laser technician, no resupply. Just play lots of early game stall, right? But then you get to 4, so you just got to survive turns 1 and 2, and then 4 you can start playing. You get the Corvus,
right?
And
the Corvus is very good, right? Like you play the pilot. I saw that line of like you play the Sentinel pilot, and then you play the Corvus, and then now you have a huge honking dude in space.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah.
There's so much good stuff in I think the real cards that are the interdictor, the fleet interdictor, because I mean it's not bad stats in Piet. It's a 5/5 or 6/6 depending on if you flip Piet for it. Sentinel in space, which is just fine, but then the fact that it looks at cost of unit to destroy means it can remove big chonkin piloted units. It shuts down so many great decks that have to just pivot around it.
Yeah.
And then the card that I loved and has never been good but is good in Piet is the Architens, the assault carrier cruiser.
Oh, that like it's ambush and then it puts the unit that it destroys into play as a resource on your side.
Yeah, and the reason why, and I don't think that has anything. I mean, it helps that Piet can get it on resource 6. Getting that card out on resource 6 is great. But what I think actually pushes it over the edge is the saturation of space arena, right? Like, the card is actually not bad. You, in theory, aren't wanting to ramp, but I think it's less about the ramp and also like there's no recursion, right? Like you're removing it from play essentially by putting it into play as a resource. But turns out it's actually, if you can discount even one, or if you're ramping one, it's just great given the amount of space.
Yes.
But so I went to a total no ramp. And speaking of which, if you were talking about we were talking about early pilots, Outlaw Corona into Iden is a lot.
Where it gets the shield.
It's a 6-8 shielded that is ready on turn 2 in space. That's a lot of beef.
That's
admittedly, you're letting your opponent ramp when they finally remove it,
but you'll have done a bunch of damage. Yeah.
But eaten like something. But
yeah.
I mean, you don't have to worry about takedown or vanquish because it is turn 2, right? Like you do have to worry about power of the dark side, so don't do that. And you're not, I think, even that worried about ramp because you're Piet, right? You're in villainy green. I think the answer is going to end up being somewhere in the middle. I think you want some ramp, but like, I think Super Laser Tech is my stock is down. That card was like a lock in green villainy for the longest time, and I'm not saying it's bad, but I think there's enough decks that are running so heavy on space that it can actually now be really hard
to trade it into something.
There's nothing over there. It's just a dead card. Unless you have a way to sack it.
Right. Unless you're Kira or whatever. Right. Yeah.
If you're Kira, if you're running the Apology Accepted.
Yeah.
Your Palp, right? Like they're definitely decks, but like I think just because you're in villainy green, Super Laser Tech is no longer an assumed card. So that was but that's all. But Piet, he's going to be great. He's good in blue. He's good in green. He's good in red. We'll see. I mean, I think he's going to be everywhere at the outset. That is a busted, really good ability. Those are our vows, Ned. Let's keep doing this podcast for 4 more months.
4 more months. 4 more months. Okay.
Dear listener, that is episode 31. It is March 2nd. If you have any thoughts about the episode, please email Ned at theforceunlimited@gmail.com. Ned, do you have any final thoughts about the episode?
Yes, we got a listener question. We didn't have time this episode to address it, but I am very excited to address it next episode. So please do not feel that your question was forgotten. It is merely being delayed in answering because of this momentous and very important occasion.
Oh, that's good because we don't have a topic for 2 weeks from now. So we will find something and fill it up with something. Okay. Ned, I will see you at pre-release. And dear listener, I hope your pre-release is awesome. I hope you get good stuff. And we will see you in a couple weeks.
Adios.